As you know, on Sunday night or Monday morning of every week, we post a new expository semiotics explaining why we would choose which lectionary readings. But in these readings, our dream is and our desire is to help you read the signs and fondle the details and spot the seminal metaphors, the condensed signs and the stories that are key for preaching to a digital culture. So strap on your seatbelt and join us as we prospect our passages for today. Appreciate you all being patient with me this week. This is Tuesday morning, and I'm just taping this vlog on Tuesday morning. It's been an incredible weekend. I've been traveling and since late last week, actually since the middle of last week, and I just got back home actually late last night, and the first thing I do is to meet with you. And I'm sorry I'm a little late, but I appreciate your patience. I also appreciate you have some of the best rates. I have some of the best rates thanks to you for people who watch as much of the vlog as the LenTalk, what we call it, as you do. I mean, a lot of people just watch 2 or 3 minutes or half, but I've got a group of people who, subscribers, friends, who care enough about semiotics, care enough about the church, care enough about Jesus and what's going on in the world to stay with me for much of the vlog. So I thank you. I thank you very much for your support. We're always excited to receive your encouragement in many forms, including financial. So thank you for supporting this ministry and keeping me going and communicating the semiotics of biblical semiotics. I'm going to start with a story, and it's based on the fact that I'm choosing as our passage for the week the Pauline letter, 1 Corinthians 1, 10 to 18. And specifically, the last verse, the last sentence, for the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. Now, Paul prefaces that with talking about the various schisms and factions and divisions in the church at Corinth. And he then says, for Christ did not send me to baptize, but to proclaim the gospel, and not with eloquent wisdom, so that the cross of Christ might not be emptied of its power, for the message about the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. And I want to begin with a little story about foolishness and how foolish we can be. This is the 6th of July, 1654, right? And the Bishop of La Cava was called, quote, a knave and a fool by one of his Episcopal colleagues. So one bishop calling another bishop a fool and a knave, right? Meaning basically a thief and a liar. After he did this, I'm quoting here, beard pulling ensued, and the two men had to be separated before they came to blows. Okay, they had big long beards, so they're both pulling each other's beards as they're screaming and yelling at one another. And this was only one dramatic example of tempers flaring at the Council of Trent. During the council's 3 dislocated sessions, 1545 to 7, 1551 to 2, 1562 to 3, there was really a shortage of angry debate. Even bishops can act like fools at times and pull each other's beards and scream and yell at each other and call each other names. The Christian faith is not foolproof. Okay? As much as we can help and we try to make life foolproof, we can't help ourselves. And what I want to kind of reflect on this week is that the Christian faith is a faith that starts out as fool-born by definition. In other words, a faith that encourages its adherents to be fools and to fool around. Now, by fool here, we got to get the Greek here. The Greek, and it's a really bad translation of fool, because the Greek really is better. Moros, we get the word moronic from it, but it really means crazy. You're crazy. It's the craziness of the cross that we are lifting up. And so what does it mean that by definition the Christian faith encourages this kind of craziness, a certain kind of, quote, foolishness? Instead of being a foolproof faith, we're kind of a foolish faith. Instead of being, this is a crazy religion, this thing of ours, this Christianity. And that's what I want to kind of have a little fun with you this morning talking about. There's a group who's claimed that word fool. They're two economic gurus and investment consultants and some of the most respected voices in the world of the economics, finance. It's called the Motley Fool. And I thought, what a great name for the disciples, the Motley Fools. They're a motley bunch to begin with. But this is kind of the essence, by definition, of what it means to follow Jesus. And partly we get this because the essence of the Christian faith is paradox. Now, paradox is when two opposite things happen at the same time and they're not contradictory. But it's crazy. It's crazy. Like a paradox is different from an oxymoron. I mean, oxymoron is like jumbo shrimp, military intelligence. I could go on. The United States of America. Increasingly, we become oxymoronic because we're disuniting. But a paradox is where two actually things are true. It's a dance of opposites where they are true and they exist together in all of their fullness. And I want to just kind of itemize very briefly some of the craziness of why Paul could say that this is foolishness to the world, but it's wisdom to God. What the world looks at as crazy, we say we embrace as truth. And let's just start. The way up is down. Right? The way up is down. The whole story of the incarnation is what? God got down and dirty with us. And that's the significance of Ash Wednesday and the ashes. You are but dirt. We come from the dirt, and we've got to be willing. God was willing to get all the way down and dirty with us, and to send us Jesus, who went all the way down and dirty. And he washed his disciples' feet. And you don't wash anybody's feet without getting them dirty and wet. So the way up, the way to an experience, an encounter with God, is by getting down in the dirt and not keeping your hands clean. I think one of the questions that, as we get to the pearly gates, is show me your hands. You got clean hands, go someplace else. God got down and dirty, Jesus got down and dirty, and you kept your hands clean all your life. So the Christian faith braves the mud and the dirt. It isn't afraid of it. Isn't afraid of it. In fact, lives among it. Here's another one. Not just the way up is down. The way to grow tall is on your knees. Prayer is the most powerful force in the universe. How you say, well, how can that be? Are you kidding me? This, prayer is a joke today. I'll be praying for you. Well, what, you're joking, right? I mean, that doesn't mean anything. It means everything. The power of intercessory prayer, the power of prayer, the power. See, we think the power is in the visible. No, the power is in the invisible. The power is in the Spirit. The great heresy of our day. It's the notion that it's the trees that move the wind. No. It's the wind, the invisible, the unseen, that moves. The wind moves the trees. Spirit is more powerful than matter. And just because your prayers don't seem to materialize and don't take physical form, the reality is they do. And prayer, the way up is down, the way to grow tall is on your knees. Jesus is always coming apart to pray. And to pray. I had actually a fabric textile commissioned a wonderful wall hanging, textile wall hanging from the Smucker sisters in Ohio, a couple of Amish sisters. And I said, I want you to. I gave them things I wanted to have them weave and sew. But I said, what I want is a picture also by his horse with saddlebags where they kept, medicines and books. But I want a circuit rider with his knees in the ground. Because there are all sorts of stories of circuit riders who died in snow banks and snow drifts and snowstorms, frozen, leaving when they found the knee prints in the snow, when the last thing they did is to usher themselves into eternity with prayer as they were spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ at the cost of this is crazy, at the cost of their life. Yes. The way to grow tall is on your knees. How about the last shall be first? How about the idea that you look to the last and bring them up to the front and to get the best seats at the table. And the issue is not you shouldn't be first, but the last should be made first and be treated as the best. This is crazy. And we aren't crazy enough. I mean, I come out of a First United Methodist Church. How many First Baptist, First Presbyterian, ever have a last United Methodist or a last Baptist Church or a last? See, that's theologically correct because the last will be first. So the last churches will get there before the first churches. But see, we're not even thinking crazy enough. You say, well, that'd be a crazy sign. Last Presbyterian. Well, yeah. The foolishness of the cross is the wisdom of Christ. And this is also to the last shall be first is also a way to move up, you move down, and you show humility. This is the Bible says you want to be exalted, get humble. This is crazy. You put yourself first? No, this is a culture of brontosaurus egos, elephantine egos, huge, ego, egos. And the Bible says, no, Matthew 23:12, the one who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. St. John of the Cross used to talk about, I love this, sinking so low that his spirit soared. Isn't that beautiful? He sank so low that his spirit soared. If you ever think kind of feeling, too big for your britches, as my grandma used to say, you're getting too big for your britches. If you're ever feeling kind of proud and a little egotistical and self-centered, Here's a little humility exercise. Meditate on this. If the sun were the size of a golf ball, then the earth would be a speck of dust. Just a few yards from it. But the nearest star would be hundreds of miles away. And this is what it is like in the relatively crowded environment of the Milky Way. And that's just one galaxy amongst gazillions of galaxies. 1 million solar systems are born every hour. The unimaginable scale of the universe. And you think it revolves around you? There's another craziness, the paradox of this crazy faith of ours that seems so foolish, but isn't foolproof, but fool-born. The back row seats are more sought than the front row seats. This is a faith, a Jesus faith. Seats out back row people before front row people or box seat people. This is a Savior, Jesus the Christ, the Messiah, chose people not from the front seats, not the movers and shakers, not from Jerusalem and all those PhDs who graduated from the temple. Jesus turned his back on that and went out to the highways and byways and chose his disciples from the back seats, from the skid rows, not the box seats and the front rows. And even when he did choose a front seat person, Matthew, the tax collector, very wealthy, front row. But in the culture of his day, tax collectors were seen as pariahs. They were actually seen as backseat people because they were collaborators with Rome. And that's why Simon the Zealot and Matthew the tax collector, they're two opposites, because Zealots hated Roman oppression and would oppose Roman oppressors in every way they could. And by the way, also Jewish collaborators with the Roman oppressors. The number one Jewish collaborator were tax collectors. So you got Simon the Zealot and Matthew. Can you imagine those team meetings that Jesus called when he called his disciples together? Back seats people. We put them first. You know, 1 billion people today on this planet live on less than $1 a day. These are back row people. We need to understand the back row. We need to have friends in the back row, in the skid rows. I'll never forget. The book came out in 1988. I don't think I read it until the 90s, mid-90s. But a French author, his name is Dominique Lapierre, spent I think it was a year of his life living in what then was called Calcutta. Today we call Calcutta with a K, not a C. It's K-O-L. Back then it was C-U-L. He spent a year living with these people on the streets of Calcutta. And he wrote a book. And he titled the book, are you ready? City of Joy. Because he found that these people who were in the bottom billion, the back row, the skid rows of our day, were some of the most joyous, some of the most beautiful people he had ever met. And that's why he called the city of Calcutta, even from the gutters and the curbsides, a city of joy. Because the joy comes from within, not from what you have, but who you are. This is crazy. It's a sheer craziness. Here's another craziness. You ready for this paradox? Small is the new big. Or what I like to put, do little large. For Jesus, and for this faith of ours, power's in the small numbers. We want to live large. We want to go big. But the way to go big and live large is you go big, small. You do small, big. The power of the small. The power of the little and the least and the last. The power of where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there am I in the midst of them. Not where the most popular, or not where you got the majority rules. But no, I want that. Just look for the 2 or 3. Get 2 or 3 right. Get the small right. I'm thinking about this last election, and as you know, I don't do politics, but I use politics as a metaphor and as illumination. But the slim Republican majority in the House of Representatives today is owed. There were 107 million votes cast. And the difference between being majority and minority in the House was 6,670 votes. You want to hear that again? You had 107 million votes cast. And the difference between being majority and minority in the House of Representatives was 6,670 votes. And that's why elections have become so unpredictable and will continue to be. And policymaking is so volatile because these profound outcomes that change everything come from the slightest of shifts. The small, the little. A change of less than 1% of votes would have switched control of the White House in 2016 and 2020 and of the Senate in 2020. That's the power of the little. So you do little, large. You do small, big. But small is the new big. And for Jesus, it was all about the small people, the small numbers, the small, doing the small well. How about this as a crazy? You ready for this paradox? Fail to succeed. Now, I don't mean it like it sounds initially, but you learn to fail so you can succeed. Okay? In fact, Jesus even gave us a sacrament of failure. When you knock on a door and they fail to receive you, or say nasty things about you, or shut the door in your face, just shake the dust off your feet, but keep moving. Keep moving. I've been in the middle of sermons and I started to take that sacrament of failure and I just realized this isn't going well. It could be my fault. It could be that there's not a spirit here to receive the message this morning. So I just started doing the sacramental shuffle of failure. But you got to keep moving. And then you take the risk again. There's an old saying, God can use an oops, but God cannot use a nothing. So embrace the oops. You're going to do oops. You're going to fail. But you fail to succeed. Okay? So that's crazy. That's not what that word means. Yeah, but it does. If you really understand Jesus here, fail to succeed. And the more you will succeed, the more you've got to fail. And any innovation, any kind of new ventures will embrace failure as learning and as a sign of learning. I think of Bonnie St. John. Her story, champion downhill skier. Her awards come from the Paralympics, and she lost her right leg at age 5. So this is a Paralympic story. The 1984 Paralympics, she won the bronze medal. She led the first day. She felt the gold was in her grasp. But on the final run, she fell with a finish line in sight. She still managed to struggle on her feet and cross the line in time to qualify for 3rd place. And she got the bronze medal. Later, she learned that the woman who got the gold also fell. She fell, got the bronze. This other woman fell and got the gold. What was the difference between first and third place? The other woman got up faster after she fell, number one. And number two, the other woman had people cheering her to get up and keep moving. She could do it. And they were louder and more supportive than her balcony section. Everyone fails. But when you fail, when you fall, will you be the first to get up? Life knocks all of us down, especially when you're trying something new and trying to innovate and experiment. The only question is, will you get back up? And will others who have fallen and need your encouragement get back up because of you? So we encourage people at church, and you're hearing, fail to succeed. So our churches ought to encourage failure. Maybe we ought to have the best swing for the fences award every year. This is why bureaucracies are so deadly and deadening. They don't encourage failure. They punish failure. And the church is like, it's become a bureaucracy. We punish failure, not encourage it. No. This is a place where you ought to be able to feel free to fail, feel free to fall, because you got people that will help you get back up and will cheer you to get back up and keep moving. Here's the last one. This is crazy. This is really crazy. Go slowly with the holy. Slow down. Take time. Let the Sabbath be a slow zone. Let the table be a slow zone. You need slow zones in your life. And you need places where you take off your shoes, you take your time, and you know you're on hallowed ground, so you walk softly and you walk slowly. And that's how you go fast. You can't go fast in the slow lane. But to get into the slow lane, you first, into the fast lane, you got to first get in the slow lane and even go off the highway. Take off your shoes and recoup, restock, rejuvenate. Now, all of this, you say this is all crazy. This goes against everything in the culture, every way and that's why it's foolishness. And that's why Jesus turned the world upside down with his craziness. Actually, as many have pointed out, in turning the world upside down, he turned it right side up. And this is the essence of the cruciform life. See, the cross is a paradox. It brings the vertical, transcendent, and the horizontal, the immanent, together, and it crosses them. It makes them talk to one another. It brings them together, so you do it at the same time. Heresy is a cross uncrossed. When you're only hearing one thing, you're not hearing Jesus. Because Jesus always brings, he comes in surround sound. He comes in stereo. Good morning, saints. Good morning, sinners. What's the truth? Good morning, saints. Good morning, sinners. What's the truth? Both. God is one. God is three. You bring them both together. My yoke is easy, but my burden is light. Yoke, easy. Burden, light. The burden is not a lazy boy. Burden, light. I want you to be as innocent as a dove, but as wise as a serpent. Don't worry about tomorrow. But sufficient are the days, the evil thereof. And Jesus, one point. This is Mark. Those who are not against us are for us. Then this is Matthew. Those who are not for us are against us. Both are true. Live the paradox. Live the mystery of this craziness. I'm the Prince of Peace. But I came bringing an olive branch. No, the Prince of Peace came bringing a sword. Come follow me and I will give you rest. Come follow me and I'll give you a cross. Take it up and follow me. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. You give to God what is God's. John 10:10, come and live. But then Jesus also says, come and die. Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief. One of the greatest metaphors for the cross and bringing together these opposites is from a friend of mine who's the head of a seminary, theological school in South Africa. His name is Chris Pepler. And he's playing here semiotically with Psalm 85, which all of us love. Unfailing love and truth have met together. Righteousness and peace have kissed. Truth springs up from the earth, and righteousness smiles down from heaven. That's Psalm 85, 10, 11. So, righteousness and peace. Some translated justice and peace, whatever you want to translate, have kissed. And this is Chris Pepler's riff on that psalm. Are you ready? When lightning strikes the earth, we only see the vivid bolt flashing down from the clouds. This is the negative charge of electricity. But the earth acquires a positive charge from the clouds above it. So the positive charge leaps up from the earth, and the negative charge strikes down from the heavens, and they kiss, okay? In this super hot blaze of electrical fire that we know of as, and you see it as lightning. The cross of Christ was the spot where the lightning of God struck the earth, the unfailing love of God the Father flashed down from heaven in a dazzling smile that would light the world forever. Embodied truth rose from the earth, arms outstretched on the cross. And the two met. In Jesus Christ, Son of God, truth and love meet in perfect balance. Love without truth cannot satisfy the penalty for sin. Truth without love would not seek salvation for humanity in Jesus Christ and in Him alone. Truth and love meet in a blaze of glory and healing. Oh, this is crazy. But the craziness, what the world sees as crazy, is the healing power and wisdom of God. Did I drive you a little crazy this morning? I hope so. Crazy disciples.